Good Thursday evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's live stream, we're going to be going over several different topics here in this live stream, meteorology wise. We're going to be going over um, the severe weather forecast for Friday into Saturday, as well as through the rest of tonight. And then we're going to be going over the late April weather pattern with temperature and precipitation trends through the rest of April. And then we're going to be going over early May weather pattern again, temperature, precipitation trends there. And then we're going to update you on the climate as well. We are transitioning back to El Nino, so we will be giving you an update on that as well. So thank you guys, everybody, for joining. Press that like button down below. It certainly does help more than you know. And again, we will be going over all of these topics here. So good Thursday evening to everybody out there. Again, appreciate it. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, the description is down below the live stream here. Follow me at hweather420 for additional weather forecast updates here. But let's get into it here. Going all the way back to Tuesday, these are your storm reports, and we have had a multi-day severe weather threat across the middle of the country. And again, this started really on Tuesday, and we did have a lot of hail producers up here into portions, especially of eastern Nebraska and to western Iowa. And going back to Tuesday as well, we had 26 hail reports, two of those being of 2 inch in diameter or larger. We also had 13 wind reports, one of those being hurricane force, and no tornado reports, thankfully, going back to Tuesday. But we did have 39 total severe weather reports. So this did kick off in earnest on Tuesday. But even going back to yesterday, this was a big day for severe weather across the Midwest and the central and southern plains. In fact, we had 15 tornado reports from yesterday, with a major tornado, an EF3 preliminary rating down in the Cole, Oklahoma region here. Unfortunately, there were a few fatalities with this tornado, so that is very unfortunate. But definitely some tornadoes even into eastern Kansas, western Iowa, and southeast Nebraska from your Wednesday, and a lot of hail reports as well. We had 165 hail reports. 36 of those hail reports were actually golf ball size or larger, and then we had 28 wind reports for those, 4 of those being significant of hurricane force. 208 total severe weather reports from yesterday. So it was a big day of severe weather. In fact, we had a lot of hail producers here around the Madison, Wisconsin area, over toward Milwaukee, the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area. We had a few reports back here in Des Moines. A couple of tornado reports up here just east of Omaha yesterday, down toward the Wichita, Kansas area. I remember we had a supercell down there yesterday that was producing some very large 3-inch hail potential. That actually scooted farther off to the east. And then unfortunately, that big long track supercell down in central Oklahoma near the metro area definitely was in a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado, which it did. It was a preliminary rating of an EF3. And even down into Abilene, Texas, we even had a couple of hail reports from yesterday as well. So a busy day yesterday and going through today. So these are today's storm reports so far. These are preliminary. But we have a lot of hail producers again today. A good thing is the tornado count for today is at 0. So that's some good news. But we do have 8 wind reports, one of those being significant, again, hurricane force or stronger. And then we had 66 hail reports from today, 4 of those actually being 2-inch in diameter or larger. And that stretches from northeast Illinois down through central Illinois here, Missouri, getting through northwest Arkansas, and all the way down into the Rio Grande Valley here into south central Texas, going all the way back to this morning. So that's what we're seeing. So Rockford, Illinois, Chicago, Peoria, getting down into the Quincy, Hannibal area there, down near the Springfield, Missouri region. Not too much going on in Arkansas so far, but that will pick up through the evening. And then a couple of reports of hail on the eastern side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and then getting farther south from there toward the San Antonio region. So that's what we saw so far today. These reports will be adding on here as we go through the evening, as there is ongoing severe weather And speaking of the severe weather, the Storm Prediction Center's outlook here, at least the latest outlook that I have on here, is the level 2 of 5. That slight risk in the yellow that stretches from the Milwaukee area, Madison, Wisconsin, all the way down through the Illinois Valley, the Arklatex, and into the coastal Texas region. So this includes big cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, Peoria, getting down into St. Louis, Little Rock, and Jonesboro down here, and getting into the Texarkana region, Shreveport, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and the Houston region. And that even stretches farther south towards Corpus Christi there and Victoria, Texas as well, going through the rest of tonight. And looking here at the storms, we'll time this out for you guys here over the next few hours or so. So the 9 o'clock time frame in just a couple of hours, these storms will be marching their way across the Ohio Valley, the western Ohio Valley that is, from portions of Michigan through northwestern Indiana down through downstate Illinois. And then the stronger part of the line will be down here with the higher instability values across the Mid-South and the Southern Plains. So into eastern Arkansas, these will be approaching the Memphis area here by 9 o'clock, getting here south and east of Little Rock, so that will shut off your severe weather potential by mid-evening. And then we'll be down here in the Pine Bluff region. Texarkana, Shreveport will be getting ready to get some storms by mid to late evening. And then that stretches its way farther west-southwest into central and southern Texas toward the San Antonio region, Tyler, Texas, and then eventually into Houston through the mid-evening hours. Going through the midnight time frame, this cold front does slow down, so it's not going to be moving as quickly. So I am worried about a little bit of a flash flooding threat. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But I do think largely we're going to see a few more storms being a little stronger here with some damaging winds and hail mainly across the Mid-South into the Southern Plains. I don't think the tornado threat will be that prevalent by the time we get to midnight. The instability will start to wane again after sunset. This will be several hours after sunset, so the instability will be going down. But the wind shear will be there, so we'll have to continue to keep an eye on these storms down in Arkansas, Louisiana, and East Texas for tornadic potential through the midnight time frame. And then by the time we wake up for your Friday morning, this is 6 a.m. This is the Friday morning commute for a lot of folks out here. We're just going to see general rain showers and thunderstorms up here into Indiana, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, into the Memphis and the Jackson, Tennessee region, up here toward Greenville, Mississippi, Tupelo. Most of those storms will not be severe. They'll just be those garden variety type of thunderstorms. The stronger storms I'm keeping an eye on will be down here into, say, southern Arkansas through Louisiana and coastal Texas. These will be crossing through the Houston and Beaumont areas here into southeast Texas, probably around 4, 5, and 6 a.m. there, give or take, on Friday morning. So that will be tomorrow morning. Those will pose a risk for widespread damaging winds and some hail. Probably not much of a tornado threat tomorrow morning down here into portions of Louisiana or Texas. So we'll continue to monitor that. And then again, looking at your Friday here tomorrow, you do see that cold front slows down. So it really doesn't make much progress to the east. It's going to be pushing into the central Ohio Valley, the western Tennessee Valley, and then down into the Arklatex region. We got a brand new low pressure system that is developing into East Texas tomorrow afternoon. So this is going to be a new low pressure system. Our main low that occluded is well up to the north across the upper Great Lakes. That's going to bring some snow showers up here to the Dakotas, northern Minnesota. Say into that Friday morning and afternoon time frame. And then, of course, we got another storm coming in across the Pacific Northwest, mainly bringing some higher elevation snow up here on Friday and with some lighter rain across the west coast there of Washington State and Oregon going through that Friday afternoon time frame. So looking here at your Friday, we do have a severe weather threat, but it's really not too big of a deal right now. There's just a marginal risk up here into the eastern Ohio Valley and parts of the Northeast. So we're talking about you up toward the Buffalo region here into western New York. Pittsburgh, you're in on the action there with that level 1 out of 5 in the dark green. That's a marginal risk. That extends farther south and west into southeastern Ohio, western West Virginia, into northeastern Kentucky, and then another marginal risk down here into portions of the Gulf Coast states. So we're talking about coastal Texas, so the Corpus Christi, Victoria, Houston metro area, getting up to Beaumont, Texas there, and then much of Louisiana. So we're talking just south of Shreveport over towards Monroe, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and getting down in toward the Lake Charles area, New Orleans, and then farther north into, say, the Jackson, Mississippi area and Hattiesburg in Mississippi going through Friday. So, and we do actually have a tornado risk going into Friday, believe it or whatnot. There's a marginal 2% shading here for tornadoes into eastern Louisiana, getting into central and western Mississippi. This does include the Natchez region, getting into Jackson, and then back into the Monroe, Louisiana area. So just a small area that we are concerned about for tornadic potential on Friday. Mainly, these storms will be damaging wind and hail producers, but if a tornado decides to develop, they would develop most likely down in this 2% shading in the green across eastern Louisiana and west central portions of Mississippi. So, and thank you so much, Amy Johnson, for your $2 donation, just showing support. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody give Amy a round of applause in the live stream chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amy. But let's time out the storms going into Friday morning. We have that line of storms again, just general thunderstorms across the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley for the most part. That is not that big of a deal. You will have heavy rain. You may have some pea-sized hail at the very worst and maybe some frequent lightning along the way. But going into the deep south here, we got an ongoing area of storms, kind of semi-organized across portions of Louisiana, western Mississippi, and southeastern Arkansas. This is your Friday morning commute. This is at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then as we go through midday, this is noon time frame now, and we are starting to see these storms kind of fall apart as they push toward the New Orleans and Jackson, Mississippi region. These could still pose a risk for isolated damaging wind gusts and some large hail. And then we'll have that cold front pushing in across portions of the southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and eastern Texas areas by noon. And if there's enough opportunity in between these two rounds of storms here into central Louisiana for some cloud breaks, if we see some partly cloudy skies or mostly cloudy skies, just some cloud breaks, that will really start to ratchet up the instability going in towards your Friday afternoon time frame. And you can see that here reflected on the dew points. Dew points down here across the Gulf Coast into coastal Texas, Louisiana, and southern Mississippi will be in the low to middle 60s here, maybe even some 70-degree dew points down into Corpus Christi there and just near the Houston area by Friday afternoon tomorrow. But look behind the cold front. It is very dry. We got dew points in the 20s. We got dew points in the 30s out here. Bone dry back across the central and northern plains, the upper Midwest, and really most of the western United States. So it is very dry behind this cold front. And you do see, though, where the dew points are highest, into the low and mid 60s, some 70-degree dew points down here into coastal Texas, getting into Louisiana. We'll see some instability growing into those moderate values, I think 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Instability will be prevalent down here. The higher values will be back toward Houston here, where we don't have as many storms in the morning hours. So the farther east you go into Mississippi, the instability, or CAPE, convective available potential energy, if you want to know what that means. That's what that means, convective available potential energy. That will be through that afternoon time frame. So lesser instability farther east and more instability, stronger energy farther to the west there into Texas. So looking with that, with the energy in place, there will be opportunities with that second round of storms pending the cloud breaks. Again, that is very important. If we see sunshine during the afternoon down here into the Gulf Coast, so it's say coastal Texas, central and southern Louisiana, into central and southern Mississippi, it'll be game on for showers and storms to become severe going through that late afternoon and evening time frame. This is 6 p.m. We're getting ready for dinner down here, probably getting home from work, and you definitely have some scattered showers and storms. A few of these could be severe, probably a handful of these, 4 or 5 severe warnings are definitely possible here going through the Friday evening time frame, getting in towards midnight. So this is going into Saturday morning, and you really see these storms start to weaken very significantly by the time we get into that Saturday morning time frame. So we're just seeing regular old rain showers, thunderstorms across Kentucky, across middle and eastern Tennessee, and then maybe a couple of isolated stronger cells down here and toward like the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa regions, and then as far south and west as, again, the Jackson, Mississippi area going through the morning hours there on Saturday. And then as we go into Saturday, the cold front will pick up steam just a little bit. That'll push farther off to the east. We got that across the mid-Atlantic, the southeast. This does include Virginia up here into West Virginia, Pennsylvania, western New York State, getting down through the Carolinas, Georgia, and parts of North Florida there, especially Jacksonville to Tallahassee, Panama City, Atlanta. These areas will start to see more rain on Saturday. And we also have a risk for severe weather. Now, we have a small marginal risk down here near the Rio Grande Valley into South central Texas. That's around the San Antonio region. That's probably more of a hail threat there as we go into your Saturday. Not too big of a deal. Maybe some quarter to half dollar size hailstones if one of those storms decide to fire up Saturday afternoon there. But by far, the main mode of severe weather on Saturday, even with the cold front to the east here, will be damaging winds and some large hail. So that will be especially in these yellow shaded colors. That's that slight risk, level 2 of 5 on the scale. And that'll be across the eastern Carolinas from the Williamsport area all the way down in toward portions of the Myrtle Beach area, Charleston, getting down in towards Savannah, Georgia there. And then that marginal risk is across most of Florida. So Jacksonville, all the way down to Daytona Beach, Miami, Tampa, Naples, getting down into Key West there, and even up into portions of the Tallahassee region and Orlando. Just be on the lookout for some stronger storms going through that Saturday time frame, but just know the higher risk will be in toward that portions of the yellow shaded color. So the eastern Carolinas and coastal Georgia, from Savannah, Georgia to Charleston, South Carolina to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then on up there just to the east of Raleigh. Just be on the lookout there for some damaging winds and large hail. There could be a tornado risk on Saturday because if we're looking at the parameters here, we have dew points in the low and mid 60s, so that we can put a check by the moisture values. We'll have enough moisture available for some severe weather potential and tornadoes. But looking at the instability, it's not going to be the biggest instability reservoir we've ever seen. We do have values up to around 1,500, maybe pushing 2,000 joules per kilogram for energy up here into the eastern Carolinas. That is coinciding with that slight risk. So that's what we're seeing here going through the Saturday afternoon time frame. And then the same thing down into Florida, especially the eastern side there of Florida from Jacksonville down there toward Miami. We could be talking about maybe some 2,000 joules per kilogram energy going into the peak daytime heating on Saturday afternoon. And another thing we have to look at is the kinematics here as well. So this is the mid-level jet all the way up at 500 millibars, and you can see this is just a few thousand feet up here. And you see that it kind of takes that left-hand turn across the Carolinas and Virginia. That's that little kink in the hose, the kink in the jet stream that we look for severe weather, and that'll be right along with that slight risk shading there the Storm Prediction Center has going into Saturday afternoon. So we do have plenty of wind shear in the mid-levels, and then we look at the low-level shear as well in the 700 millibar layer. And you can clearly see that Saturday afternoon, we do have that. Plenty of it as well, especially those stronger values into Virginia, into the Carolinas, and maybe parts of Georgia, including coastal Georgia there on Saturday afternoon. That's up around 40, 50, perhaps 60 knots across these areas. That's more than enough low-level shear needed for some tornadoes. So we'll definitely have to get that going potentially on Saturday afternoon. So let's look Saturday morning, getting up for the weekend, 7 a.m. We got some storms that's moving through the Atlanta metro area, Chattanooga on up through the Knoxville region, eastern portions of Kentucky, Charleston, West Virginia, probably waking up to some thunderstorms by 7 a.m. on your Saturday. Again, the southernmost storms will be more feisty. These ones will have more instability to tap into, and they'll have more energy, so they could be stronger than the ones farther up to the north. But make no mistake about it, this entire line will have heavy rain with it, will have lots of lightning with it, and at least maybe some small hail potential farther to the north into West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and eastern portions of Tennessee. Now going through midday, this is Saturday noon time frame. We're starting to see more of these scattered showers and storms pop up. There are going to be some storms we're going to be watching ahead of the main line. And on a lot of these severe weather days, whenever you see an isolated, discrete storm develop ahead of the main line, you really have to wonder if those could rotate. So we'll have to be on the lookout for those across the eastern Carolinas ahead of the main cold front and the main line of storms by already late morning, early afternoon, kind of centered around the noon time frame on Saturday. With southward extent, we have more instability, but we also have more discrete storms. So this will also raise a little bit more of a red flag for tornadic potential going into the midday hours on Saturday. Then going through the height of Saturday afternoon, this whole line pushes east. So a couple areas into the Carolinas, especially eastern Carolinas, could have multiple rounds of storms. We could have a couple of storms firing up discrete or semi-discrete with supercells ahead of the main line. Those could pose the risk for isolated tornadoes, some damaging downburst type of winds, 60, 70 miles per hour, and some quarter-size hail or larger at times. And then the main line of storms comes through with the cold front, and that will end the severe weather threat from west to east going through the evening hours. So this will go through 7 o'clock on Saturday evening. Those will be approaching coastal portions there of Virginia, up there towards Maryland, Delaware, and then getting into the eastern Carolinas. With it kind of hanging on to the outer banks of the North Carolina region. It's kind of off the coast, probably, of Myrtle Beach and Charleston as we get towards 7 o'clock in the evening. Still be watching out for it there, and then maybe some widely scattered showers, maybe a storm or two across the Jacksonville area, Fort Lauderdale, down toward Miami. That's going into that 7 o'clock time frame on your Saturday evening. Then as we go into Sunday, that whole system pushes off the coast. There's that cold front here that's going to be moving across the southern and southeastern United States the next couple of days. Maybe some lingering showers or a storm up here into the northeast across eastern New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into coastal Maine, and then farther south into the Boston area, Hartford, Connecticut, getting into Rhode Island, the Cape Cod region. Just be on the lookout for some wet weather there as we go into your Sunday, probably more so in the morning hours. I think as we go into the afternoon, that will clear out from west to east, and we'll see plenty of dry time Sunday afternoon across the northeast. And then we have a little bit of a system down here into the Rio Grande Valley. I know it's been dry down here across Texas into Oklahoma. We may have some showers. The heaviest of the rain will be down here toward like the Brownsville, Texas area, getting up there towards San Antonio, maybe Corpus Christi there as well, getting in on some heavier rain at times on Sunday. It will not be a complete washout down here, so make note of that. If you do live in central or southern Texas, it will not be a total washout down here across those areas. And then we have some showers as well up into the Pacific Northwest on Sunday, mainly just some nuisance rain, not talking about anything too terribly heavy, but just know that it will rain potentially in Seattle, down toward Portland, in Oregon there, and maybe northern Idaho there by Sunday morning. So that'll be mainly Sunday morning and then clearing out potentially by the afternoon. But looking overall, the total rainfall accumulation now through Monday, this is going through April 24th, early next week in the work week. And we'll be adding up the rainfall totals across the eastern two-thirds of the country. By far, with the deeper convection, the stronger storms, that's where you're going to be able to squeeze out all that moisture down here across the Arklatex, the Mid-South, and the Southern Plains. So, respectively, we will be seeing the middle and lower Mississippi Valley receiving the heaviest rainfall. This is for about 1 to 3 inches of rain mostly. There could be a couple areas like down here near like the Corpus Christi, Victoria, Texas area, and Houston, getting over toward like Lake Charles, Louisiana. Could be seeing some isolated 4-inch totals, and that could also be set up here toward like the Memphis region, Little Rock, or just east of Little Rock, and then up there toward Jonesboro, and then maybe Carbondale up there into Illinois. Just watch out for some heavier rain. But across the Northeast, we'll be getting our fair share of rain. So Albany, New York, getting into western Massachusetts there, southern New Hampshire and Vermont, and maybe even the New York City area, we will be seeing our fair share of rainfall as well. That will go through that Monday timeframe. But you notice back to the west, unfortunately, in the areas that desperately need the rainfall the most, I know western Kansas has that extreme and exceptional drought. We're going to be just seeing bone dry conditions for the most part going through the weekend into early next week. So unfortunately, other areas that get rainfall in the Texas that desperately need it, we don't have it more widespread farther north. So it would be great to get rainfall across all of the Great Plains. We're just not seeing it through early next week. And again, across the Pacific Northwest, I did note there were some showers up here across Seattle and Portland. I think mainly about a half inch to an inch of rain at most is on the way. So again, this will be spread out over the next, Sunday, Monday timeframe. So I'm not too worried about flooding up here. So that is definitely some good news. So looking though at the flooding potential, I think it's highest across portions of the Mid-South, getting in towards Texas here into western Louisiana. This is now, so right now through Friday, still a marginal risk along that cold front up there into the western Great Western Great Lakes region into the western Ohio Valley. That'll push east slowly with the cold front, western Tennessee, so Memphis to Jackson, Tennessee, And then down here into, say, like central Mississippi, into the Jackson, Mississippi region, Tupelo, down into the Natchez region, the Baton Rouge and the New Orleans area, we could be seeing that slight risk for flash flooding Friday into Saturday morning, with more of a marginal risk extending farther north and east into Indiana, into Ohio and Kentucky, and even parts of middle and eastern Tennessee toward the Cumberland Plateau there in the Smoky Mountains going through that time frame. And then just a very small marginal risk. You blink and you miss it. That's across portions of southeastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina as we go into that Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning time frame. So that's kind of the flooding risk over the next couple of days. That's what you can expect, with the potential for flash flooding and how much rain you can expect as well through the Monday time frame on April 24th. But looking at the snowfall side of things, so I know it's still April. It's late April, getting into late April now, and we're still wondering, are we done with winter? Well, not quite yet. So if you live in the upper Midwest or southeastern Canada and even the Pacific Northwest, in the higher elevations especially, you will be seeing more snow going through this weekend into early next week. So this goes through Monday, April 24th, and you do see some heavy totals up here into the Dakotas, northern Minnesota, and portions of like Ontario, Canada, and western Quebec. The heaviest totals will probably be up here toward like the International Falls region and west of Lake Superior. Those totals through the Monday time frame could climb over 10, 11, 12 inches there. So definitely going to be enough to shovel, enough to get the plows out here as well across those areas. And then just again, it looks like mainly north of the Twin Cities, but we could have maybe up to an inch of snow into the Minneapolis, St. Paul region, northern Wisconsin, and then the heavier totals back there toward like Bismarck, Fargo, getting in there towards North Dakota and the Dakotas, all the way through that Monday time frame. And then again, across the Pacific Northwest and the Central Rockies, just get ready for a few inches of snow here and there going over the next few days. This will go through the upcoming weekend and into the Monday, April 24th time frame. But as we go through this weekend, so after we get rid of all the storminess, we're going to have a cold blast come down, okay? So we're going to have colder air. We get back into the northwest flow of things as we get in towards the middle of the country and really most of the areas east of the Rockies by tomorrow. So once that cold front moves through, it's all northwest flow from here. So that means anytime we get northwest flow, you're going to have at least some cooler air, as it's not coming directly from the Pacific, it's coming from Canada. So we're going to be seeing some cooler air starting on Friday, going right straight through Saturday, and by Sunday, April 23rd, the cooler air will become a little more muted across the middle and southern portions of the country because we get back into that Pacific flow. It's more of a zonal flow here, or quasi-zonal flow. It's kind of more west-northwest than straight west to east, but either way you slice it, it is going to be kind of a little bit chillier, a little cooler as we get to the second half of the weekend up here in the United States. So looking at the temperature anomalies, this is on Friday, so this is tomorrow on the 21st of April. Up here, it will be across like Montana, the Dakotas, and Minnesota, maybe as far south as Nebraska. We're going to be a good 10 to 15 degrees below normal for this time of year, and that actually extends up into the southern Canadian provinces as well. So southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and western portions of Ontario. So all that cold air will be moving its way farther to the south as that cold front comes through. So you see the East Coast on Friday has not yet seen the cold front. So that means the warmer air will be there on Friday. But watch as we go into Saturday, that cold front makes it all the way across the southeast, tugging down all of that moisture, or all the moisture away from the area, and then all the cooler air rather getting across the southern United States into that Saturday, April 22nd time frame. And this will mean a lot of cooler air. A lot of the middle of the country will see temperatures 10, 15, perhaps locally 20 degrees below normal for this time of year going into Saturday afternoon. And look at Sunday afternoon. Down here into Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, we could be about 20 degrees below normal for this time of year going into that Sunday, April 23rd timeframe. So a big cold blast is on the way behind this system. And looking at those temperatures, so this is tomorrow afternoon. These are your high temperatures. And you see as that cold front is still progressing across the eastern side of the country, ahead of that, we're going to be into the 80s. We're going to be at 88 up here and toward portions of like Roanoke, Virginia, into the central Carolinas. We're in the middle 80s from about 85, 87 degrees. Even New York City, we're on up into the upper 70s there as well. 84 degrees there into Pittsburgh, 84 as well into the Charleston, West Virginia region. But back behind the cold front on Friday, temperatures will be back into the 30s and 40s. And look at Friday night, guys. I hope you guys didn't plant yet across the upper Midwest or the northern plains because we have a hard freeze that is expected going into Friday night. I do think that we're going to have a lot of freeze watches, freeze warnings, and frost advisories up here, encompassing most of the northern United States into Friday night. So, probably during the day tomorrow, if they haven't already, your local National Weather Service offices will probably be issuing freeze warnings, freeze watches, and also frost advisories across Wisconsin, Iowa, getting into Minnesota here. Look at that. We're in the upper teens and low 20s for lows into Friday night here and waking up on Saturday morning. Same thing can be said into Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana with even some chillier air. 52 degrees is is kind of cooler for the Dallas Fort Worth area going into that Friday night time frame. And we only warm up on Saturday into the 70s there in the Dallas Fort Worth area, 75, 61 up there into the Oklahoma City area, getting into Tulsa, 53 for your high on Saturday afternoon in St. Louis, 47 along the lakefront from Green Bay to Milwaukee all the way down to the Chicagoland area. So some middle 40s there for Saturday afternoon. And then we're only into the upper 20s into eastern North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota with that deeper snowpack up here still lingering around. That will hold temperatures down into the 20s and the 30s on Saturday. And there we go, another widespread hard freeze and frost conditions Saturday night. So again, another night for more of the potential freeze warnings and frost advisories up here across the northern United States here. And actually, that freezing line gets down into the lower Missouri Valley and approaching the Oklahoma Kansas state line, even the panhandle of Texas as we get into Saturday night. So that will push well far to the south. Some anomalous cold air for this time of year. And then as we go into Sunday, again, cooler temperatures across the north here. And then Sunday night, you guessed it again, more frost and freeze conditions. So there is a solid 3 nights or so of at least hard freeze and frost conditions across portions of the Dakotas, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and some outlying states as well up here. So definitely cover up the plants if you have planted already. If you haven't planted already, good for you. You have to wait a little bit until early and middle May. Probably the best bet there till about Mother's Day or after to plant some plants up here as we begin to warm up into May. But even Monday, starting early next work week, that cooler air will linger around and actually spill even farther south. So we're only in the low 70s in Atlanta, mid 60s there in the Music City in Nashville, mid 60s there into much of Missouri, into St. Louis, and then again into the Dallas Fort Worth area over toward Wichita Falls there. We're in the low to mid 60s going into your Monday time frame. So there is a cool down coming, guys. So enjoy the warm weather while you have it the rest of this week because this cool spell will likely last quite a while. So this is the Climate Prediction Center's temperature outlook. This goes from the middle of next week on Wednesday, April 26th through Sunday, April 30th. So this goes all the way straight through the very end of April. And it does look like the eastern 2/3 of the country, and better yet, everywhere along and east of the Rockies will be below normal except for southern Florida as we go through the end of this month. So this cool weather pattern will have some staying power going through the rest of the month. And then we have a ridge developing across the western United States where above normal temperatures will be, and that's as that ridge will build and spike all the way up to Alaska. If you guys watched my video here this morning, there's a ridge of high pressure that will be moving its way across the eastern Pacific, and that usually means what goes up must come down. So if we have a spike of a ridge all the way up into Alaska, you bet that we're going to have cold air as we get into the middle and eastern 2/3 of the country. And looking at the precipitation trends through next week, it does look drier under that ridge. So again, with sinking air, with high pressure, you guys know we have sinking air, so you don't have a lot of cloud cover in general. You don't have precipitation because you don't have the cloud cover or any rising air. So you're going to have drier weather across the Pacific Northwest. So I know Seattle and Portland, you guys are probably going to see rain this weekend, especially there on Sunday, but it will turn drier into next week for a significant amount of time as well. So that is something we'll watch, and that's not only for the Seattle and Portland. That covers most of northern and central California, Nevada, back towards Salt Lake City here into Utah, back into western Wyoming, much of Idaho, and Montana as well. The active weather will be across the eastern and southeastern United States really across the southern plains, the Gulf Coast states, and again the southeast, especially those brighter greens here into say like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, on up into Virginia, there, Maryland, Delaware. Those are the areas where I expect the real active weather to be into next week. So let's explain this a little bit more in depth. So going through next week, we'll start early week on Tuesday, April 25th. That jet stream goes way, way, way far to the south. So this is what we call a subtropical jet stream, and the polar jet is basically inactive going into next week. So it's all about the subtropical jet. So the farther south it goes, the farther south that the precipitation chances will go as well. So that means it's all the way down into the southern Four Corners region and the Rio Grande Valley here in Texas and right along the Gulf Coast. And that really stays that way through that Friday time frame. So all the way through the better half of next week to really the end of April, that's the weather pattern we're looking at. The subtropical jet will be activated down here across the south. A little bit of the polar jet starts to come back with that ridging moving into the west, but it really doesn't get that active. So I think the subtropical jet will be the main feature to watch through next week, going all the way through at least that Friday, April 28th timeframe. So what does this mean from a precipitation standpoint? It does look wet. So starting on Tuesday morning, April 25th, we have some rain showers out here across Kansas, Oklahoma, and North Texas. Again, I'm not concerned about severe weather, just going to be some general rain showers again, because we did mention it will be cooler into next week as well. So there's not going to be a lot of instability building, not a lot of moisture building here for severe weather. So we're just talking about more of some heavier rainfall there on Tuesday. Going into Tuesday evening, again, I can't discount the potential of a couple of stronger thunderstorms with some small pea to penny size hail, some dime, nickel size hail, stuff like that. Just your pocket change hail down here, maybe some gusty winds from time to time, but definitely the heavy rainfall threat will be prevalent into Tuesday evening here into portions of Texas, including North and East Texas, up here in towards Oklahoma and western Kansas. That's desperately the areas where we need the rainfall. That is very well where we'll see it respectively on Tuesday evening. Going into Wednesday morning, again, more rain into western Kansas. Nice, steady, light to moderate rain like we like to see with that drought out there. That will continue into western Oklahoma, including the Oklahoma Panhandle, the Texas Panhandle, and the Amarillo area. That's Wednesday morning on the 26th. It also looks rather wet down here across the central Gulf Coast states and the southeast. So from Louisiana to Mississippi to southern Alabama, Georgia, getting into South Carolina and much of Florida will be active through the middle of next week. Again, I can't discount the potential for a few stronger storms, maybe a couple marginal risk severe weather days, but overall the severe weather threat on a widespread scale is not there going into next week. And with the absence of instability, and then we have more of that heavy rain again across the central and southern plains, and then across the southeast again as well into Wednesday evening. Thursday, the same thing. Another wave moves in across the south. That will continue into Thursday evening, and then the same process will repeat itself into next weekend, starting on that Friday morning time frame and going into Friday evening. So overall, how much rainfall are we looking at with this next wave? This does not take into account the rainfall we are seeing today through our Monday. This is from Tuesday through next Sunday. So this is adding on to the rainfall we're seeing going through this upcoming weekend. So whatever you see this upcoming weekend, this is on top of what you can expect. So this is Tuesday, April 25th through Sunday, April 30th, right through the end of the month. And the heaviest rain you can see is across the areas where we desperately need it. So thankfully, we will be seeing some heavier rain into portions there of Kansas, western Oklahoma, into North Texas, into the panhandle of Texas, and much of the southern and southeastern United States. Looks like the heaviest values, just by looking at this, would be across southwestern Kansas, western Oklahoma, northwest Texas, and then across the eastern Carolinas into south central Georgia. Those areas through the better half of next week could be over 3-4 inches of rain, with maybe some localized 6-inch totals over here into the eastern Carolinas. Hopefully that doesn't come down all at once, but we'll be on top of it with my weather videos. I'll be updating this throughout the week, so we'll continue to track this going through the week's time frame. Now let's kind of look at the late April and early May weather pattern. So I promised you guys we'll talk about this a little bit here in today's live stream. And then I'll get to your guys' questions here. I thank you guys so much for being patient with me. It's just a lot of information to get out to. But I will get to your questions here in just a few minutes. So But looking here at late April, so this is the last few days of April, getting into the first handful of days in May. This goes through May 4th. It's going to remain pretty locked in place. The pattern that we exit April with will enter May with the same similar pattern here. So it's going to be with cooler air across the eastern two-thirds, along and east of the Rockies here. And then that ridge will spike all the way up to Alaska. Up here into Alaska, western Canada, we're going to be warmer. So British Columbia into Alberta, getting up into Alaska, and then the Pacific Northwest will likely be above normal going through the late April timeframe from the 27th through the 30th, and then all the way through May 4th. And it'll be cooler across the eastern two-thirds of the country during that time. Then going through the same time frame, April 27th through May 4th, the precipitation trends, it will be drier across the north and northwest. A little bit of some active weather across the Aleutian Islands and southern Alaska here. Definitely some good news there, as it is a little bit drier at times. And then we have a lot of active weather across the east coast, getting into the southeast and then back into the southern plains in some areas that desperately need it as well. So we will continue to see some active weather there. But up to the north, the Dakotas, Minnesota, getting into like Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska up here, maybe even parts of Missouri, going to be quieting down toward the end of the month here with more drier weather. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to see no rain. It just means averaging the April 27th through the May 4th time frame out, it will likely be below normal during that time frame. Now let's go into early May. So this is May 4th. So we're picking up on May 4th, going all the way through May 11th through the second week in May. You start to see some major changes. So we're going to transition a weather pattern here in towards the early May timeframe. Sometime between the first week in May and the second week in May, we're going to make this transition. A new weather pattern will be setting up here. We have the ridging over top. So we're going to have ridging up here, up into portions of Canada, but we are also going to see ridging develop across the middle of the country somewhere as well, with a trough on either side of the country. So we could have a trough down here into portions of the southwestern United States with some active weather. That will bring cooler temperatures to California, Nevada, getting into Utah here, back into Arizona and much of the Four Corners region, and then more active weather and troughiness across the southeast through that May 11th timeframe. And like I said, with the active weather, that's where you're going to see the cooler weather. So it's drier up into Canada, drier across the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. Not drought type of dry, but I think we'll have some rainfall through May. It just won't be a lot. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. I'm not thinking drought, but I am thinking drier weather. Okay, just keep that in mind. But we are seeing some active weather across the Rockies, getting into the Southwest and much of the Southern Plains. Again, look at these areas. We need the rainfall here across Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and on up into Nebraska. We will get that likely through that May 4th through the 11th timeframe, and that will be across the Gulf Coast and into Florida. Now, looking at that May 2nd timeframe from a severe weather perspective. So we know early May can be active for severe weather, early to mid-May. That's climatologically when the severe weather really starts to shift farther north, farther east, and really become a little bit more widespread. So looking here at the dew points, well, the first week in May, or at least the first few days in May, dew points will be pretty much low because that cold front will take care of all the instability and moisture out here across much of the lower 48 during that time frame. The only exception will be central and southern Florida, but most of this will be in the form of some heavy rainfall. But as we go in towards the last few days of the first week in May and toward the second week in May, we start to see some changes. Like I said earlier on a few minutes ago, we're going to undergo a weather pattern change, and that's when the dew points will start to rise here across the eastern two-thirds of the country. You see these teal blues and some darker blues and purples. Those are dew points returning back into the 60s and 70s from the Great Plains on eastward, and that will continue here as well. So you can see that instability starts to return by May 6th timeframe on average across mainly the central and southern plains. So I think the Great Plains setups will come back with severe weather and tornado potential getting through that second week in May. But as we get solidly into the second week in May, on May 11th on average, we still see that pattern persisting and actually strengthening a little bit, with dew points rising farther north into the upper Midwest now, the Great Lakes, and into the Ohio Valley as well. And you can definitely see we are going to see more instability values building across the Mississippi Valley, central and southern plains during that time frame. And looking here at the monthly mean precipitation for May, this is just an average of how much rainfall you could see annually every single May. So again, this is not exactly what you're going to see, but this is just a model mean. It's just an average. And you see generally across the area I was just mentioning in the Mississippi Valley, that's the very area we're going to see the active weather return to the first and especially the second week in May there. And it looks like here, this is my severe weather forecast. So from today through April 30th, the severe weather will be possible across the eastern and southeastern United States back into Texas here. And we see an absence of severe weather up here to the central and northwestern United States. But as we go through the first half of May, and this is where we're going to stop for this because as you go farther out, obviously it gets a little bit more uncertain. But from a big picture perspective, again, we're not going to get into the fine details because it's only April 20th today, going on April 21st tomorrow. But the big picture does show that severe weather should be possible across the middle of the country, with even a likely zone probably in here across the Illinois Valley, or to break this down further, from the lower Midwest through the mid and lower Mississippi Valley, where we've seen severe weather time and time again this spring. That pattern will return and will return respectively, getting into the second week in May toward all the way through the May 15th, 2023 timeframe. So that is the likely category I'm putting it outlined in the red. This could shift, this could change. I'll keep updating it as well, but this is the likely area I'm seeing for severe storms getting through the first half there of May. Now, the last segment before I answer some of your questions on here. I know you guys have been very patient. I definitely appreciate it. Lots of information to pass along to you. But going through the El Nino, so a lot of people want to know about the El Nino and what's happening with the El Ninos. Everybody's talking about El Nino. So this is the surface temperature anomaly, the sea surface temperature anomaly currently, and you see back here into the equatorial Pacific, that's where we see the warmer sea surface temperature anomalies right now. The cooler temperatures in the eastern Pacific Ocean are up here right along the coastline, the western coast of the United States, and then all the way up there into southwestern Canada and the Aleutian Islands. So we are undergoing a major change in the sea surface temperatures over the past couple of months. And what this is doing is it's actually transitioning us out of that 3-year La Nina that we've been stuck in for 3 years back into neutral conditions right now. So we're into what we call an ENSO neutral here right now. And then this is actually going to transition into positive territory like it is now, even further as we go into late spring and through the summer months of 2023. So what does this mean? Well, this graph's going to look confusing to you, and I'll explain it. This is a consolidation. All these lines and all the different colors is a consolidation of all the long-range climate models, okay? And this puts all the models together and comes up with a little bit of some different scenarios of where this could go. So you see the numbers on the left-hand side of the screen here. You see the positive numbers on the top and the negative numbers on the bottom, and then 0 here in between. Well, right now we're near that 0, so we're in neutral conditions. So we're not El Nino, we're not La Nina right now. We are in ENSO neutral, and we are actually trending positive as we get through the second half here of the spring and into summer and fall especially. And some of these are pretty bullish, actually getting up into moderate, if not strong, El Nino status going through the summer and fall of 2023. And that will actually carry over into winter of 2023 as well. So again, that's kind of what we're seeing. We're going to be seeing, again, a transition to an El Nino going forward. I'm not going to get too much in depth with this because I will have a video coming out about this in the next, say, probably a week or two. But I just wanted to touch on this, that yes, we're going to have more opportunities to see rain farther south, and with an El Nino, we are going to be seeing a lot more rain farther across the southern United States during that time frame. So that'll be going through summer, fall, and then more active weather in the winter. So I know the Northeast, you have seen a lot of below average precipitation snow-wise this past winter. I think that's going to pick up a lot more as we go through, say, as we go through the winter this year. We're going to see a lot more snowstorms, a lot more potential for nor'easters getting through the winter months coming up in 2023. But that's a ways away. We'll continue to track it. All right. So, anybody have any questions about everything I just went over? I know there's a lot of information. I do apologize it took so long. It was almost an hour's worth, but a lot of information to pass along to you. I appreciate everybody joining. If you are just joining or have been here and have not pressed the like button, please press the like button. We're only at 74 likes here on the live stream. That's the thumbs up button down below. Consider subscribing, though, as well to the YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button down below. Definitely lots of great detailed weather breakdowns here on North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics. I'll be touching on the tropics as well. I'll have an Atlantic and Pacific hurricane video coming up here in late April as well. And actually, here's my Twitter handle. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, these for additional weather forecast updates, you can hit the description down below and go follow me on Twitter. It's hweather420, and I post periodically throughout the week, just different things on there about the weather, and also retweeting any pictures such as the severe weather posts that I retweeted from yesterday are on there. A lot of good stuff on there as well, so go check that out. Will I get severe weather before June? Yeah, a lot of us will get severe weather before June. Yep. How long will El Nino? We don't know yet. We're not sure about how long the El Nino will be here. Going back to this graph, it does kind of spike there in towards that like fall time frame. It kind of dwindles back eventually toward weak El Nino, or maybe even like a neutral status with the climate going towards the spring of next year. That's in 2024, but that could change. That's a while away. We're talking a whole year out, so we'll continue to track it. Yeah, you're welcome, Saunders. Thank you, Weather on the Go, for the updates. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much, Saunders. Appreciate it. All right, so let me scroll up to the top here. I know you guys had some questions, so let me scroll back up to the top. Thank you guys for waiting so patiently here if you're still here. Yes, I'm talking Central Time there, Easterling. Yep, Central Time. And again, thank you, Amy Johnson, for the $2 donation. Just showing support. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm talking about Eastern Time when we're talking about the Eastern United States, and Central Time there when I was talking about the Southern Plains. If that makes sense. What are the hail, wind, and tornado probabilities? They're very low, Tanner, across the United States. Really, we're talking only 5 to 15% on the wind and hail probabilities. And the highest I see for tornadoes would be probably on Saturday. That would be across the Eastern Carolinas there. And we're only talking probably about a 5% shading of tornadoes. So let me actually go back to that real quick on that slide because I wanted to show you what I'm talking about. So let's go back to that here. So you're talking about this here. You're talking about Saturday. I think in these areas here in the yellow across the Eastern Carolinas, that is where we're probably going to have at least a 2% shading for tornadoes. I'm pretty confident that the Storm Prediction Center will put that out. But there is also the chance as well of a 5% shading of tornadoes being introduced with that maybe slight risk tornado probability. That would be across eastern North Carolina, the eastern South Carolina region. So from like Raleigh down here in towards like Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah, Georgia, those areas going in towards Saturday. Nicholas says, I love you, Weather on the Go. I watch all your videos. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching my videos every day. Definitely appreciate it. Yeah, I try to break down my weather pattern or the weather pattern very well on my videos. All right, so definitely go check that out. I have a video out today. Go check that out as well. Is Sioux Falls, South Dakota going to get snow? No, I don't think so. If you do see snow over the next 10 days, it'll be just flurries. It's not going to add up to anything. A lot of the heavier snow, and I'll kind of go to that snow graphic. I know I'm kind of jumping around here. Here's the snow graphic. You're talking about Sioux Falls there in South Dakota. I think maybe, if anything, you could see maybe up to an inch of snow over the next, through the Monday time frame, and then probably going to the end of the month. But we're really not talking about too much snow. Nothing really to shovel there. So not that big of a deal. So as of now, the tornado risk is low in northeast Kentucky. Christie says yes, absolutely. Yep, the tornado threat is pretty much nil there. We're not talking about anything tornadic there, probably in Kentucky. Just some heavy rainfall, damaging winds and hail will be the main risk there. That's for northeast Kentucky, really all of the Ohio Valley as well. Just not seeing that. All right, let's see here. Hey, weather on the go. How bad did it get for you in Illinois? For me, not too bad here in Aurora. Oh yeah, Aurora, Illinois. There was a line of storms pushed through. I had some gusty winds. It wasn't too bad. Just some gusty winds. No hail here. A brief period of heavy rain and some lightning. Other than that, really wasn't that bad. Probably one of the weaker severe thunderstorms I've had in a while, to be honest. So that's some good news. Obviously, you don't want any damage. And that was the thing anyway. A lot of those storms were kind of a little weaker. The instability wasn't as strong today across portions of the Illinois Valley, so I wasn't too worried about it today. But Texas finally getting needed rain. Absolutely. Yeah, Marcus says, yeah, Texas getting needed rain. Here's the rainfall for Texas going through. Whoops, I'm going the wrong direction here. So here's the rainfall for Texas now through Monday, and you can see most of this will be falling across eastern and southeastern Texas. The heaviest here from like Tyler, Texas, down to Houston, Beaumont, down to Corpus Christi, Victoria, and maybe down toward the Brownsville area, toward the Rio Grande Valley. West Texas, so if you're talking about like Fort Stockton, Lubbock, Amarillo, there will be some rain, but probably not a lot, at least through that Monday time frame. So that's what we're seeing over this weekend into early next week. All right. Better warm it up for my birthday. Well, I don't know when your birthday is, but I think the pattern will change into the early and middle portion there of May. Um, Again, kind of going into the long range pattern. I'm sorry, guys, I'm jumping around, but here is what we're seeing. The pattern, this is going through the very end of April. So if your birthday is within the next few days, it's going to be cold. I wouldn't say cold, but unless you're across the northern United States, low temperatures will be in the teens and 20s up there going into like Saturday morning, Sunday morning, probably some freeze warnings, freeze watches, frost advisories, and stuff like that up there. But it looks pretty cold across areas east of the Rockies, mainly with the ridge building across the eastern Pacific Ocean. That will translate downstream to the western United States. That's where we're going to see more likely the cooler weather going straight through the western United States through the end of the month here. And then you see that warmer pattern come back. That cooler pattern will be there through at least May 4th. The warmer pattern will try to come back into that May 4th through 11th time frame. We'll have a trough on either side of the country here. We'll have cooler weather across the southwestern United States and the west coast into the first week in May. Just due to more active weather, you can see there's going to be more rainfall across these areas, so that will cool things off. And then you have more rain across the southeast there going through the first week in May. That will also have temperatures below average as well with some cooler weather. So above average temperatures, that'll be in Canada and the northern United States, centered around the southeastern Canada regions there and towards like the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes through the first week there in May. And then obviously you can see things kind of heat up. This isn't temperature, but whenever you see dew points rising into the 60s and 70s like this into like the second week in May, you can definitely expect you're going to be seeing some warmer temperatures along with this as well, and probably a severe weather standpoint. And anybody wondering about severe weather, again, going through the end of April, this is where I'm kind of outlining the potential of some storms being severe. Again, it's just the possible category. I think as we go in towards the first half in May, especially this is for like May 10th onward to May 15th. That's probably the higher frequency of the severe weather events is what I'm seeing right now. That'll mainly be confined to the Mississippi Valley again. So a lot of the same areas, unfortunately, that have seen a lot of rainfall this year, or a lot of rainfall this year, yes, but a lot of severe weather this year, we will be seeing that again. Where have I been? I've just been here doing the weather. That's what I've been doing. Will Denver, Colorado get any snow? I think so. Let me go back here to the snowfall slide here. Let me look. Let me look for you. I got it for you. I'm looking for it. Here's the snowfall. If you're talking about through this weekend, Denver, Colorado may get some snow. I think it's more higher elevation snow in the Denver area. So I'm not too crazy about like snow in Denver of like a foot of snow or anything, but maybe a couple of flurries, maybe some light snow showers could add up to maybe an inch or two in the Denver area downtown, but I don't really think it'll be that big of a deal. This time of year, April sun angle is a lot higher. It's a lot tougher to get snow in the lower elevations, let alone even in the Midwest. I mean, the snow line's pushing farther north. So I think if anything, it'll be the higher elevations there of Denver and in Colorado, like western Colorado as you go up in elevation, the Rockies. That's kind of where we're seeing it. Yeah, it'll be warm in May. Absolutely. I think May it'll warm up. I think the second half of May will be much warmer than the first half of May, especially if you live in the eastern two-thirds of the country. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. I'll have my May weather forecast out, video out. That'll be on May 1st. So that'll be, about 11 days from now. I'll have that video out for you guys in the morning. Yeah, Missouri. I'm really slurring my words today. I promise I'm fine. Missouri is going to be seeing that severe weather. Yeah, you're right, kind of in the middle of that. If you're talking about this graphic here, my severe weather forecast from May 1st through the 15th. Yeah, you guys are probably in the likely category, according to what I'm looking at here. That's going in towards that first half of May. So the first and second weeks in May, all the way leading up to May 15th. That's where we're seeing the severe storms there, potentially, or likely anyway. It got very windy here in Cook County, Illinois. The trees on my block were bending. Yeah, definitely. There was that line of storms moving through earlier, producing some damaging winds and large hail. But thankfully, no tornadoes. At least so far, there's no tornado reports for today. And here I can go show you the severe weather reports. This probably is updated a little more since I've done this. But going back to today's reports, at least earlier on, we had mainly hail from these storms. We had 66 hail reports, 4 of those being over 2 inch in diameter. And then we had 8 wind reports, 1 of those being hurricane force. So far, I mean, this could have updated. Let me look here on my laptop real quick. Right now on this graphic, it says 0 tornado reports. But let me see here what it's up to now. We have 1 tornado report now, so we okay. So this says 0, so scratch that. We have 1 tornado report now, and that is just east of the Dallas-Fort Worth area towards Tyler, Texas. Okay, so there is 1 tornado report there. We're all the way up to 79 hail reports now, with 4 significant still, and then we have 19 wind reports and now 2 that were hurricane force. So we're up to 99 total severe weather reports as of today. That is currently the updated storm reports for today. I just looked on my laptop. I went on the Storm Prediction Center's filtered storm reports page. I'm ready for a warm up, so maybe I won't need the extra vacation. Well, if you have any vacation plans and you want a warmer area here to go to Florida. That'll be the area to go to. Where's that graphic at here? Yeah, you can see here, or just go across the western United States. You can see Florida, central and southern Florida, from like Tampa to Naples to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Key West. Those areas will be warmer than average through next week. Or you can go across the western United States with the areas that are seeing the ridge of high pressure. And that is when we will be seeing more of the warmer temperatures there. How does the hurricane season look right now, with the transition to El Nino? I think overall, my thoughts, I'll have a video on this. And again, my thoughts could change between now and me putting a video out about it on the hurricane season. But just a sneak peek of my thoughts for that. I think the Pacific hurricane season will be slightly above average because we're transitioning to El Nino. And then I think the Atlantic hurricane season overall will be kind of near average to slightly below average. Okay, so I think near average in the Atlantic and pretty much above average or slightly above average in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. That's what I'm seeing. So the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, I'm kind of near average with my thoughts there. So near average hurricane season there, including tropical depressions, tropical storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes, stuff like that in the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic, and then also in the Caribbean. And then in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, I think we're going to be slightly above average. Those are my thoughts there, Saunders, on that this year, especially with the transition to an El Nino. Usually during an El Nino, you see, and I don't have the graphic on here. I probably should have put it on here for you guys because I knew somebody was going to ask that question. It's a good question, but I think the hurricane season is a lot more favored in the Pacific Ocean during El Nino years, and Atlantic quiets down during El Nino years. Thank you, Saunders, for the $2 donation. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Everybody give Saunders a round of applause for the $2 donation here to the channel. Much appreciated. And again, those of you who have not yet pressed that like button, the thumbs up button, please do so. We're almost to 100 likes on this live stream. We're just about 12 away or so. So please hit that like button. Good thing Friday is nice and quiet and no second round of storms I got pre-ordered. Friday, there it doesn't look like that big of a deal. And here, let me go back to Friday's timing of the storms here. So Friday. Okay, so here's Friday morning. We have that first round of storms down here across the lower Mississippi Valley, Mississippi, Louisiana, and southeast Arkansas. Those storms will start to quiet down and become a little less numerous toward the noon time frame. And like I was mentioning earlier on, whatever happens in between these rounds here, we got the cold front to the northwest there into the Arctics in East Texas, northern Louisiana. Whatever happens in central and southern Louisiana and like southwest Mississippi, if we have cloud breaks between these rounds of storms, so if you see sunshine, sunshine is not your friend on Friday, so that'll be tomorrow. That will heat up the atmosphere, become more unstable, and we could see more storms. Right now, that model is not too carried away with that, and you can see as we go through Friday evening, it has some storms, but you don't see a big solid squall line moving through. So that's some good news. We're not seeing anything too crazy. And really looking at Friday's threat for severe weather, it's only a marginal risk down here across the lower Mississippi Valley from Houston on up there towards Baton Rouge, Monroe, Louisiana, New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, Natchez, then getting up closer toward the Tupelo region, and then southward toward like Hattiesburg there and towards Mississippi. Gulfport, Mississippi, those areas. All right, so that's what we're seeing. But anybody else have any other questions for me here this evening? Definitely over the next few minutes can answer as many more questions as possible. But otherwise, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Much appreciated. This was lots of fun. I want to do more of these live streams where we talk about the weather pattern, break it down, kind of like I do in my videos, and you guys can understand it more. All right, so kind of more of the meteorology behind this, covering the live weather forecast on a live stream. I'm probably one of the only YouTubers that does it, which is fine, but I like to answer as many questions as as I can. And I can also answer questions on my videos. So I'll do a video every morning. You guys can watch my videos and ask questions on there as well in the comment section down below. I'm more than happy to answer all your questions about anything weather related on there. So whether it's about hurricane season, the upcoming spring, summer, temperature trends, precipitation trends, anything like that, I can definitely answer your questions. Do we have a heat wave coming? No, not anytime soon. We're actually seeing a cold blast or a cool down coming for the eastern two-thirds. I wouldn't say a heat wave across the west, even though it's above normal. I think it'll be pretty much just warmer than normal. I don't think we're talking about a full-fledged heat wave or anything like that. Just some warmer than normal temperatures for this time of year out there. Linda says, I need to get going. Thank you, Weather on the Go, for the forecast, and everyone have a great evening. Thank you so much for joining, Linda. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Always good to have you on here. Amy says, I learn something new every time I'm here. Well, that's good. That's what I strive to do, is kind of be more educational as well while I'm on the live stream with you guys. Yeah, I think we went over everything. You guys up in the northern United States for like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Michigan, Montana, Wyoming, all those areas. If you live in the upper Midwest, the northern plains, the Great Lakes, watch out for a several day period, probably about 2 to 4 days worth of frost and freeze conditions, a hard freeze as well. Some of those temperatures will be down into the teens and 20s. So that will be a shock to the system again for those areas. So another big cool down. That's what we're seeing. All right. So anybody have any last questions? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up here closer to about 8:15 this evening. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I will have more daily trivia questions. So if you guys don't know, I put trivia questions out on my community tab every single morning between about 5 and 6:30 in the morning or so. And I put those questions out, one question every day. It's a trivia question. Some are tougher than others about the weather, and Sometimes it's about hurricanes, tornadoes, and stuff like that. You guys can go answer those questions. The answer will be revealed on the community tab for that certain question every afternoon at 4 p.m. Okay, so mid to late afternoon every single day. So I know you guys like the trivia questions as well. Saunders says likes the trivia questions. Yeah, absolutely. Want to know everything, something new every time I'm here? Absolutely. That's what we're here for. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Any final questions on the way out? I definitely can answer them. But if not, please follow me down below in the description down below. Click it, and you can follow me on Twitter. The Twitter handle is down below in the description below the live stream. Follow me on Twitter, certainly, at HWeather420 for additional weather forecast updates. I'll be posting different things weather-wise on there of what to expect in the long range periodically throughout the week, anything that I see on there to keep you safe from the storms, and just kind of reposting, retweeting any storm-related reports and pictures and stuff like that on my Twitter page along the way as well. So thank you guys so much for joining. Again, have a great rest of your evening. And we only need 2 more likes to get to 100. So I appreciate if 2 more people at least would press that like button, the thumbs up. And also, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. I have another weather forecast video for you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Definitely we'll have more information on the cool down, the active pattern coming up, and much more in the long range period with the video tomorrow. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Again, thank you for joining Rain Maves, Linda, Saunders, Tim Key, Amy Johnson. Thank you so much for joining. John, thank you for joining as well. Faisal, thanks for joining. Also, let's see who else. Christopher, thank you for joining as well. Marcus, thank you for joining. Benefield, thank you for joining as well. My granddaughter is moving now from to Clarksville. All right, that's in Tennessee. Definitely an active pattern down there coming up. Thank you, Gobbler. Peyton. Thank you, Trisha. It's not my birthday, but thank you. And Tanner, thanks to Janice and Jordan. Christy, thanks for joining. And Nicholas. Monster, thank you. And also, who else is on here today? Let's see. Xavier's Extreme Weather, thank you for joining. Easterling, thanks you for joining as well. If I skipped your name, I apologize. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening, guys. Tomorrow's Friday. So we finally got to the end of the week. So tomorrow's Friday. So have a great rest of your evening, everybody. Stay safe. I'll have a video tomorrow. Good night.